This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
Today's episode is going to be a great one. I got a good friend of mine that I've met in the NFT and crypto space with us. He has been in software architecture, design and development, and been in all kinds of different tech startups. His Web3 journey began in 2017, building a cryptocurrency and exchange. Today, my guest is the CEO and founder of JDM Labs, my good buddy, Mikee Trompeta. How you doing today, Mikee?
What up, Benny? I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, man. So I love the hat you got on. If you're watching on YouTube, this guy's got a gift goat hat on, which is part of the NFT collection from Gary Vee, VeeFriends, that you guys have heard us talk about earlier in the summer. Mikee was, he had the big mansion party. I had a bunch of people on, Mikee, by the way, from my podcast from Hangout Hawks. A lot of Hangout Hawks have been on here. Mikee's also a Hangout Hawk. So
oh, cool.
We kind of go in the same circles in the VeeFriends community. Mikee, let's get right into it. How did you come about by investing, first of all, in VeeFriends, and then let's go back even further of what made you really get excited about cryptocurrency and NFTs?
So actually, let's just go back first, because without going backwards, I wouldn't have invested in VeeFriends. So in 2017, I professionally got involved in the blockchain space, working on a cryptocurrency exchange. Long story short with that is, the bear market came just as we are in right now, October of 2022. And, our investors got a little bit spooked, pulled out, and we had to shut down. During my time then, I bought some cryptocurrency from a whole bunch of different coins. I'm not a big trader at all, but I bought some Bitcoin, I bought some Ethereum, Doge, not Ripple, Stellar Lumens, what was the other? Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin.
Any Cardano?
Dash. I'm sorry?
Any Cardano?
Oh, yes, Cardano, yes. Cardano, Monero, Digibyte, a whole bunch of different, I had a whole bunch of different holdings. Well, when we closed the exchange, suffice it to say, I was a little bit bitter. Because I kind of put all my eggs in one basket. So I swore off crypto. I'm like, fuck this shit. And I put away all my private keys. A couple years later in 2021, in January of 2021, I saw that Bitcoin was back, in the mainstream media. So I was like, oh, okay, let me check out my balances. Once I checked out my balances, I was like, whoa, hey. Yeah. And
got excited again.
Yep. I got excited again. And, I still didn't want to trade. I'm not a trader by any means. And then all of a sudden I heard, from Gary that he was going to start his own NFT project. Let me rewind a little bit. I saw when CryptoPunks dropped. I saw when CryptoKitties dropped. I just thought, I was around for Mooncats, and I just thought this was stupid. Who's going to buy an 8-bit, pixelated picture back then? And they were minting for free. Well, at least punks were minting for free, right? Now, I didn't get any of it, wrong move by my part. But yeah, so fast forward again to Gary announcing his NFT, and I just thought it was still stupid. But what I did was I was like, you know what? Gary has provided so much value to the entrepreneur, startup community, and just a lot of people in general. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go buy VeeFriend. I got into Discord, got all hyped up with everybody else, basically bought 6 VeeFriends from Series 1, including a gift code and a Hangout Hawk. And that's how I got into VeeFriends.
So what were you doing for a career? Because I know now your company, you basically help people launch NFT projects. What were you doing before VeeFriends as far as a career goes? Oh,
okay. So I was basically in software development, consulting, freelancing. Prior to that crypto exchange, I was in another startup, a travel tech startup, and I didn't have any breaks in between. That one, I was in it for 7 years, then jumped right into the next startup. And I decided, hey, I needed a break, right? I've been hustling hard. So for a couple of years, I was just freelancing and, working on whether it's web development or custom software development, apps or whatever, just for, just so that I have something to do. But then VeeFriends came along, and then I just dove all in. I'm all in on Web3.
So you like learned that side of it. Is it different? Like what you had to learn completely different than what you were doing before? Because like talk to someone like me I'm not very tech savvy. I'm not very software. Like I know like I need software, but I don't know how to build it. So like is like learning that code and learning how to like program stuff like that different?
It's not that different, but to become an expert, it will take a while. So, fortunately, I did learn Solidity while I was in the crypto currency exchange in that company, right? So, you do roofing, right? Like, can you be a general contractor or have a general contracting company if you wanted to? Of course, but you specialize in roofing, right? So, I did mobile apps before, I launched a mobile app before, did a lot of web development, did a lot of, it's called .NET or Windows development, and a lot of the skills transfer from one to the next, but, to become really good at it and specialize in it, it takes a few years.
So tell me about Mikee, like the young version of Mikee. Like what were you like in high school? How did you get into this space? Like, have you always been into like software and tech and making things and building things from kind of like behind the scenes?
Yes. Well, not software specifically. So in high school, I was actually building custom computers back in the 90s for, random people. Back then, it was the rage to build your own custom computer. I remember going to the computer fair and haggling with the different people who sold, like whether it was video cards, back then it was AGP, now it's like PCI Express, I don't even know anymore, memory, buying processors, motherboards, and all that stuff, and I was building custom computers and selling them. But it was fun. I loved doing it and loved making money doing that, but, like my passion back then was actually music. I went to college, I wanted to major in music, but, Asian parents, no. So I majored in
you have to go work hard, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I majored in something that I was really good at and I enjoyed as well, which was math. When I majored in math, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to learn this programming thing. It seems interesting. So I did mathematics, computer science, and then I had programming came really easy to me. So, after graduating, I was just a professional programmer for several years, for a bunch of, like 10 years of my life at least. Before I jumped into a startup, I was still a programmer there, but I was working in the corporate world back then.
Wow. So so because you went for math and computer science, your mom and dad were probably pretty happy with you. You can do something with that, right? You can
exactly.
You can hang out with those kids at MIT and Carnegie Mellon and go get some crazy job somewhere, right? They probably. Where are you guys from? Like, where'd you grow up at?
Oh, I grew up in a suburb of Los Angeles, California, more like East Los Angeles, kind of Inland Empire, for those of you that know, closer to Orange County, actually. So I grew up there. I went to school in San Diego, UC San Diego, and then after graduating, I moved to Vegas.
Vegas, baby. Now, what's in Vegas that you didn't have in California? Like, why Vegas?
Well, so I worked for a Silicon Valley, not startup, a Silicon Valley established company. What they did was health and medical records. They were called Impact Medical Systems back then, but now they are Electa. They were based in Sunnyvale, and I had the option to move up to the Bay. But then I was like, no state income tax, and they opened up a satellite office here in Vegas. So I was like, you know what? I'd rather go to Vegas. Plus, we had a family home here as well. So, it was an easy transition moving from LA to Vegas as opposed to going up into the Bay where, rent is crazy and, being around.
It's like 3 to 1, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 3 times as expensive to live in the Bay, I feel like.
It's wild.
So when was your first, I feel like you've always been hustling. I mean, if you're building computers when you're in high school, which is I just watched that Steve Jobs documentary again. And I feel like, that's what he was doing back in the early 80s, right? He was, maybe even late 70s. He was building him and Woz were building these computers. Then they would take them somewhere to try to sell them to somebody, right? Is that kind of like what you were doing? Kind of just, buying stuff, off the internet, putting it all together, packaging it up, reselling it to somebody else?
Yeah, you could say that. Like what they did was they were building a company, right, and their own hardware and their own operating system. I was literally just building a computer, and there was no internet back. I mean, there was internet, but you couldn't buy stuff off the internet back then. I would go to this. It's in Pomona, the Pomona Fairgrounds. It's where the LA County Fair is usually held, and like every month they would have this computer fair where they, different manufacturers from different companies and even third parties would sell hardware, and I would try to find the best prices, build them for people, and then install Windows on it. So it's not like I was building my own company. I was just technically I didn't incorporate or anything. I was just selling it. It's like, hey,
But why? So let me ask you this, because a lot of people that are listening, half of them aren't even old enough to remember back then. The other half remember what it was like then, but they were so busy working on like the old school stuff that like this whole new stuff in the 90s when the computers were coming out, internet was coming out. Most people don't even know what was actually happening behind the scenes. Why? What was the need? Like, what problem did you solve for people? Like, why would people buy computers off you instead of buying it off Dell or Hewlett Packard or Gateway? I think was a computer company back then. Like, why buy one off of Mikee, off the young Mikee?
Well, a lot of it was through, word of mouth and referrals, right? Some people wanted a quote unquote gaming computer back then because, it's the same issue right now. The higher the specs that you would buy from like one of these brands like Dell or whatever, the more expensive it would cost. So, they would try to maximize back then processing power, the video card, and specifically memory and hard drive space. Sometimes they had specific needs for it. They wanted a larger hard drive so they could store stuff as they downloaded stuff from the internet. So, a lot of them was just, custom. And it's not like it was a full-time job and I needed it to survive. It was more like a hobby. It was feeding me so that I can be up to date with the latest computer parts and also build my own custom computer.
Where did you get where'd you get the money at when you first started buying and selling some of this stuff? Like, tell me about those early days of like what, like, do you remember how old you were when you like made your first like sale on something like that?
Yeah, I was like 16 for my parents. They saw that I took an interest in, I'm very fortunate and grateful for my parents. Like any hobby that I was into, they were fully supportive of it. I play the drums, I play the guitar, even though I don't play anymore, but, they bought me a drum set. They bought me, a couple guitars back in the day. I got into computers. They gave me the cash to buy computer parts, right? And they were very supportive of not only mine, but my siblings' hobbies. That's
really cool, man. I think that's important for parents. I feel like the kids that do really well in life, especially like from an early age, they got full support from their parents. They were able to like let those creative juices flow. My first podcast that I ever did, it was with a buddy of mine. His name's Chris Callan. He's like a kind of a creative director, ad executive at big companies. Now he started his own little boutique marketing company. But he told me one of the things, his dad bought him a drum set and just allowed him to play the drums as loud as he wanted and whenever he wanted, and his dad never complained, right? And that's a lot for parents, right? Because I can only imagine if one of my kids was over here right now on record this podcast and they're beating on their drums, I'm going to open up my door and be like, can you cut that out for a couple hours?
Yeah.
And that's just a tendency that we have as humans, right? To like, but I feel like those parents that really can respect that and kind of let their kids be creative is really forward thinking. So kudos to you and your parents, man. They're special people.
Thank you.
What kind of work did your mom and dad do? Like what was their background in?
My mom was technically a social worker. She worked there's this social program in California called Women and Infant Children. So she helped mothers who basically needed some financial help, specifically as they were pregnant or, they had children 1 to 2 years old, and cool. Feeding them, like properly and giving them the right nutrients. And then also, my dad was in the government as well. He was I think it was like not senior financial manager for in the Los Angeles County District.
Okay.
LA County School District. There you go.
All right. So that was cool. So they were all about helping you achieve your dreams, right? Which for them, I'm assuming, I shouldn't probably assume, but I'm assuming that, how long have they always been in this country? I mean, you're not.
No, they immigrated here in 1975. in LA.
So they were living that American dream for themselves, was just getting a job, getting, they work for the government. That's probably a big deal. And then for you, they're probably thinking, well, my kid can be anything he wants in life. They're like, go be creative and go set the world on fire, right?
No, not really. It didn't work that way. No. They, even until now, like my dad pushes me to get a stable job and work in the government. Yeah, like a real job. Like, what are you doing with your life? He's like, yeah, because he's not lying. He has a great pension and a great retirement. He's living well while, he's retired, him and my parents. But, they're worried about me, and they're like, hey, why don't you go get a real job, work for not even a corporation, right? Like, work for the government, so it's a stable job. But as we know, the government isn't that stable anymore. Like, a lot of pensions are being cut and all that, but because my parents were from that older generation, they're a lot older. Their pensions are fine and their retirement.
Well, and it's hard to get, and and I know you're a creator, right? We all have guys like me and you that we've met, especially through this VeeFriends community. We meet all these different creative people, right? We're all creative in our different ways, and I feel like when you go to work for the government, like, you might as well just zap all your creative juices.
Oh, yeah. My younger brother, did that, and he actually works for the Beverly Hills City Hall. And, oh man, talking about zapping your creative juices, right? Like, he's way more creative than me, but he listened to my dad and worked for the city hall, and I could tell it's a lot different for him. So yeah, I don't want that life for sure.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, because every time that me and you talk, every time we meet, we're all excited about the future, right? And what we can do about it, and we can actually. Guys like me and you, entrepreneurs, can actually affect change quickly, right? Where the government's, a little bit slow moving, and I don't know if they necessarily want all of your ideas. They always want to do what their ideas are and move their agenda along. So that's cool. So after high school, what was your next step at? Like, did you ever have I'm assuming you had some real jobs, or did you always stay in that entrepreneurial track?
No. I did have some real jobs, right? Like, so after high school, I ended up working at this place called Club Disney. Think about, like, imagine Chuck E. Cheese, but a much more upscale Chuck E. Cheese, and it was Disney themed. Back then, Disney Regional Entertainment was toying with the idea of opening smaller places, like smaller Disneylands, so to speak, in like the suburbs of different cities. They had 2 in California as their like pilot launches, and then also 2 in Arizona. Basically, the idea behind it is, like, you can have your kids' birthday parties, or, like, have field trips there. And, I was actually, I taught arts and crafts, and then I also hosted educational field trips from elementary schools.
There you go.
Yeah.
Did you always have a side hustle going on at the same time, or did you just get laser focused in the job and just keep kind of going with it?
Actually, no, I was still building computers back then. That was kind of like, I was still building computers back then. I was always building computers, even through college.
All right. See, that's cool, because a lot of times on this show, I always want to kind of showcase everyone's little journey through life and kind of see, like, the different parts of, like, who they are, where they came from, how it kind of shaped them and molded them. And kind of what they're doing now. So I think that's
speaking
important.
on that, right? Like, a lot of people would characterize me as extroverted, right? I'm actually naturally an introvert. I do have to say this, and one of the most formative things in my life that helped me come out of my shell is, I hate to admit this, but it was very formative, and I appreciate it and I enjoy it. Is, remember how I told you I was passionate about music? I was actually in my high school show choir. So, like, have you watched Glee and all that stuff? So, Yeah. So I would dance and sing and perform in all kinds of places, including Disneyland and Walt Disney World, with a group of, like, singers and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So that's where you get the personality from, because there's not. I will say this about you, and again, everyone that's listening, don't put me in a bubble. But most of the time, when I talk to techie and software geeks and nerds, they don't usually have the personality that Mikee Trompeta has. And I always find that you're, like, so different, because you can cross over, right? You can talk to us sales and marketing guys, and you can talk to the tech people, and you're kind of like got this really cool spot where you're kind of like in the middle, just kind of floating and connecting with different people all over, and kind of like making sense of it. I almost look at you as like you're like Simon Sinek in, like, the NFT world.
No. That's too high of a praise. Simon Sinek, I love that guy. That guy's cool.
Well, listen, but you explain things well to people on both sides, right? So, like, and I think that's because I've been watching the way you communicate in the Discord, on Twitter, on Clubhouse, all the different places, and I feel like you're able to connect the dots for a lot of people. You've also been really helpful. I know you've been helpful to me. I can't remember exactly when we first met. I think it was probably in one of those gift goat rooms, and I think that I got your information, and I think there was a video call, and
you DM'd me, and then we jumped on a Zoom call so that you could, because you had your hiatus for a couple months. You know, you had some personal stuff that happened. So
yeah, I was trying to get caught back up with some stuff, and I remember, it was right when my brother died, and I was like, shoot.
Oh, okay, I didn't want to say that on the podcast.
Oh, no, it's all good. No, my whole life is an open book, but But yeah, you're right. I was gone for like 3 or 4 weeks, which is like an eternity in this Web3 NFT space. At least it was back then. It still is, really. I feel like every time I miss a week, like I'm like light years behind. And you were kind enough to like get on a call, kind of tell me what you thought, because it's really hard to trust people, because it's a bunch of people that just meet from all over the world, different walks of life and different, ways of being. And you don't know who to trust, who not to. But for whatever reason, I always felt super connected with you, especially from the tech side, because I'm thinking like these guys can sell me anything and I'll buy it. I say, because I don't really understand the tech behind it. So I need to be able to understand like the tech and like what's really happening. And I always felt like you were that person. So I appreciate you for that, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that.
And I'm not the only one. I mean, I think you know that. I feel like you've gotten, I feel like everybody, at least in the VeeFriends community, knows and respects you. And I think they all, to the most part, love what you're doing. I think it's nice to have a company, someone that like formed an actual company that's developing this NFT type of service to people that are trying to build their own communities. And because it is like, you don't know who to trust. Like I could hire any company to build me an NFT project, but like I wouldn't even know what questions to ask them to even get started. So like, and which is bad though, because then if we kind of cut off that communication, that learning to the other side of the fence, how good's the innovation going to get? Because I feel like it's going to take both sides. It's going to take sales and marketing and creative people along with software engineers and developers, and it's going to take both minds to really create the ultimate projects. And I think trust is important.
It is, and you make a good point, right? Like how JDM Labs was born was because we found a need back then. Like what was that? 2021 after VeeFriends minted, it was the hype, right? Everybody wanted to launch their own NFT. Everybody wanted to be creator, and they were having these clubhouse rooms like, artists learn Solidity, Solidity for artists. And then like I would go into these rooms, and I would go on stage and I'd ask these artists, do you think I would ever be as good of an artist as you? And they're like, hell no, right? And then I would flip it on them. Do you think you'll ever be as good of a Solidity developer as me? And they're like, I'm like, hell no, right? So yeah. Exactly, right? So that's why, like I said, collaborate. Like I always say to everyone, collaboration is currency. You make a good point. Like even for us, like sales is hard. Like sales and marketing is hard. Like that's not our specialty. So, we're so fortunate that, word of mouth has been great for us, but we don't do any marketing. We don't do, any hardcore sales and any of that stuff. Like the extent of our marketing is me going to conferences and trying to meet people. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Which you would do anyway, just to meet people.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have a developed marketing department or a developed sales department, because right now you're just taking as many orders as you can from your friends and the friends that you meet in the community, and you're kind of just using your intuition, whether you think it's going to be a good fit or not a good fit. I'm sure you've been learning some bumps and bruises along the way. Oh yeah. I mean, it's been a learning process, and of course I'm learning the sales process as we go. But like since I'm basically the only person in charge of business development. I mean, that's the drawback because of my role in the company. I don't program as much anymore. At least I still read code, but I don't program as much or at all. And, I'm doing a lot of the business development now. That's cool. I mean, I definitely notice when Mikee goes from super communicative to where he goes into his, like, I call it the wormhole, where like you're probably overwhelmed with like all these requests, and then you're trying to run a company. I think we've talked about it I don't know, last year, like how do you balance all of the activities as CEO and then also while you're trying to learn sales and marketing, right? Because at the end of the day, if that's not something you've been around for a while, or if ever, to develop that on the fly, because, you know, you probably like want to figure it out so then that way you can either train and develop people or continue to keep doing it yourself. But I know once you're CEO, you really have to enable and empower people to be able to in those roles, but that's your reputation on the line, right? Like,
exactly.
You're probably worried that, like, hey, if you just send in a hardcore closer to close a deal, well, are they going to make sure that they're the right customer for us? Are they going to make sure that, like, you know, it's not all just about closing a deal and making a commission. You know, we got to make sure that we identify that customer's needs, find out if there's a compelling enough reason for them to do business with us. Do they actually really need us? Are we going to actually add a lot of value to them? And, you know, are they qualified to do business with me? You know, do they have the money? Do they have like the system? Do they know exactly what they want? Because if they don't know what they want, we're just programmers over here. Like, we'll program whatever you kind of tell us. We'll give you some guidance, but dude, it's your dream. Like, you got to kind of give us guidance, right? And I think a lot of visionaries, a lot of guys like me struggle with articulating like what they want. And I think the better that you get at extracting through questions, and this will come over time, the better you guys will have a better marriage, right? Because I'm sure you've had some good experiences and bad experiences, right?
Yeah, no, like you hit the nail on the head right there, right? Like, there's been some growing pains because, you know, like you said, by our nature, programmers are like, oh yeah, we can build it. Oh yeah, we can build it. You know, like qualifying the customer, making sure they have the money, you know, and doing that correctly is really important. You know, as I've learned. We just can't build anything for anyone anytime, right? We have to be we have resources that we have to manage. And I'm fortunate to have, you know, a COO, co-founder as well, you know, who's very focused on just the business side of it. You know, he's takes care of a lot of the business. You know, he's not even that well versed in Web3, which is kind of funny. Like he just helps out on the business side of it on whether it's legal, finances, even like, you know, our, coaching me for the business development and sales, and, you know, and just helping out with that. So it's been a learning process, to say the least. And you're right. Like, you know, I sometimes go into like my wormhole, but that was before. You know, after that Hangout Hawk call with Gary, like I asked, like everybody always talks about the sunflower seed business when sunflower seed, and, you know, they kind of bypassed the question that I asked. Back then I was super overwhelmed. I was getting like, you know, like I didn't know what the fuck to do, but he made a very good point, you know, be kinder to yourself. And I know that's easy to say, but, you know, I really took that to heart, and I was kinder to myself. I wasn't beating myself up anymore for, like, if I dropped the lead, you know, if I didn't follow up on this person in time, or if I what do you call that? If I didn't close a deal or whatever. I was like, okay, it's okay. You know, as long as I keep on working hard, deals will come. And I've seen that. And then I'm like, okay, I'm a lot more kinder to myself. And not only that, I realize, okay, I've got to put these systems and processes in place to help me out. And that's what I've been doing.
That's awesome, man. I think it's fun hanging out with other entrepreneurs. You know, we're all at different stages in our business development. I definitely think that we can all learn from each other, especially different industries, right? Like, and that's one of the reasons I love about the community at VeeFriends. You know, me and you are both in the Gift Goat channel. We're both in the Hangout Hawk channel. We both own Spectacular. So it's three basically really small groups, right, that have, you know, anywhere from, you know, I think Hangout Hawks has 100, 125 people to Spectaculars. There's technically probably 1,000 of them. Yeah. Gift Goats is 500. So, you know, but we find the same type of people. There's probably, you know, an average of 30 to 50 people that are super active in the Discords, I feel like. And they're all from different walks of life. They're all in different industries. That's what it's attracted to me to VeeFriends even more so. Yeah. Rather than just being Gary, like that was cool for like the first month, you know, but like what keeps me going back is people like you and the rest of our friends that we meet in there. Talk to the people at home that are listening. Tell me about what the community means to you so far and how you've leveraged that to be able to, you know, keep going in life.
I would say the community is almost everything, right? To me. That's why I'm not planning to sell. I get it. There's people, you know, just to give you a sneak peek of what's going on in the Discord and the community, there's some people who are looking to sell, you know, high and buy low. But like you just alluded to, the biggest value that I've got personally is meeting so many smart people in Discord, in all three of those channels, and whether, pretty much those three channels. And they're from all walks of life, from all parts of the world. whether they're in real estate, investment, entrepreneurs, they're in the corporate world as presidents or vice presidents of, of a company. They're just starting off in their journey and they just want to understand, it's crazy to see, whether they're from Japan or from France, or it's just wild, like the cool thing is about in Discord, it's asynchronous, right? So meaning you could read it whenever you want and reply whenever you want. I didn't know that you were from Pennsylvania, until we talked about it. But, you're on the East Coast, and it's cool that we can chat now whenever. But, there's other people like Emil in the Hangout Hawks who lives in Japan.
He's
right?
sleeping. He's sleeping when we're up most of the time.
Yeah, he's sleeping when we're up.
But now he's adjusted. I feel like he's on our time because he's always commenting.
Yeah, so that's what's crazy, right? He's an Australian who lives in Japan, who sells real estate in Japan, right?
He was born in Iraq. He was born in Iran too. Did you know that?
He was born in Iran?
Iran or Iraq, and then he immigrated to Australia. Then he moved to Japan.
And then hangs
out with a bunch of us Americans.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what keeps on bringing me back, right? Not only can I, do I have a soundboard in those channels, but just listening to the conversation, reading the conversation, and just learning so much. It's like, I hate to say it like this, but it's like you're in high school or in college and learning a lot again by just observing a lot of people. When you get into the professional life, we're so caught up in our own quote unquote businesses or work that those are our peers. But now it really does feel like you're back in high school or college, and you have so many peers from all walks of life that you can learn from.
Yeah, and I will say that it's taken me a while. I mean, I'd say the first 3 months I had a pretty good idea because I've invested a lot of time and information and spending time with people, right? So I could understand the perspective. So then that way, because you get all this information, I don't know what to believe, what not to believe, like what should I put more weight on, until you actually get in having your own conversations with people. But I feel like after this, the first 3 months were really intense, where it was intense learning of who we all were. And then when we all got to meet at VCon, I feel like that was another layer of all right, we can kind of get a different sense, right? Because then you can actually see if it's real, right? Because it's easy to hide behind text, right? And now it's like, wow, okay, you kind of know who the home base are, right? Home base, the fundamentals. Even there, there's people that you like, there's people that you don't like, right? But then there's people that you can trust, and then there's people that you can't trust. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. You don't have to like everybody that can be trusted. Like, there's some people I don't necessarily like, but I trust them.
Yes.
Which I think is a huge distinction, right? And I think a lot of people, they use their emotions and they let them, I don't like him, he's all full of fun, and that's true, right? I might not want to hang out with him.
Talking about, Benny?
I might not want to hang out with him every day. No, I don't listen. See, I'm actually talking about a general. No, I know. Actual. And at the end of the day, though, but I think that it's really important to understand what you can hold as true and factual versus what's emotional, right? And I think if you can kind of separate the two, I feel like you can get further along in the community and make better decisions going forward.
Well, I think you hit on a key point there, right? I think because of our maturity, I know there's a gamut of ages in the Discord channels, but because of our general maturity, it's not like high school where we're talking behind each other's back. We can pick and choose what we want to agree with, what is opinion, what is fact, and without having personal opinions with them, against that person or for that person, for that matter, right? We can read comments, smart comments, that we totally disagree with, but we understand that that's their opinion and we respect that, even though we may never want to hang out with that person. I think that's such a key point in these Discords, because, it's not like when we were younger and, it's like, oh, those are the cool kids, or you're part of the cool kids and people wanted to aspire to be you. It's more like we all want to help each other. There's no we look up to each other Benny's doing fucking a kick-ass job, with his roofing business and talking on different conferences, keynoting. I'm like, fuck yeah. But whereas other, but the thing is, it's not like, oh, he's a cool kid, so to speak, right? Yeah, we can all come up to you and talk to you. And that's the fucking cool thing.
Yeah, that's, it is.
Sorry, was I not supposed to cuss?
No, you're allowed to say whatever you want, man.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hey, listen, this is what I like about the American airwaves. On the podcast, there's no FCC regulation, right?
Oh, that's true.
Not
FCC,
yet.
FCC.
I said FCC.
Oh, I thought you said SEC. I'm like, SEC.
No, FCC. No, I'm at least smart enough to know that it's the FCC.
Okay.
Now, sometimes I don't clearly enunciate, but speaking of SEC, what do you think with VeeFriends and the SEC? Like, I know there's a lot of talk where they wish that, like, they could be considered an actual investment, like rather than just a collectible. So then that way, Gary, I have my toys behind me. If these toys pop off, like how do the NFT holders get a little reward or kickback, right? Like, what are your thoughts on how that's going to work?
I think, in my opinion, I know Gary. I mean, first off, Gary comes from VaynerMedia, right? So not only that, so he has the money to have the legal team. So what I mean by that and why that's important is he's been trading very carefully to make sure that we are not investors. We are collectors, even though we are investors, right? And what I mean by that is, like, say, for example, our gift code, the floor on Mint was 5 ETH. The thing is, if he were to say that, okay, well, you own a quote unquote percentage or whatever, whether it's profit sharing or whether it's a percentage of the company as equity, whether it's dividends, whatever it may be, he can't do that yet without clarification from the SEC. That's why he hasn't said anything, right? He even said, everything that you've thought of, I've thought of it too, okay? So he just can't proceed properly because who knows what can happen to VeeFriends. Like he said, VeeFriends is his life, and I could understand that from his point of view because, as a business owner myself, and you too, Benny, like, you don't want to risk your business at all in any way legally if you can avoid it, right? So He's proceeding carefully. Like, for example, we see right now Yuga Labs is going through some legal issues. Yuga Labs is the company behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club because of its ApeCoin. Right? Even though ApeCoin's its own separate thing, but still it's tied to Yuga. Now it's getting intermingled, so there's issues. Not to say that they can't get through it. I think they will. They have the money to, right? But the point is, why would you want to put your company in that situation unless that's your whole goal to, like, further innovation that way? Gary's thing is he wants to build IP off of these characters. Whether or not we're going to become shareholders of VeeFriends and there's like a VLAN, just like Disney or whatever, that remains to be seen. That's why I think he's proceeding carefully, because he can't be focused on legal issues when he's building IP.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times people get the short term and the long term really, really misconstrued. I think, as soon as you use the word investor and investment, there's a whole different stringent of rules, and it should be, because, if I put up $1 as an investor, I actually expect to get a return, whether it's 10 cents, 20 cents, 5 cents, some type of return. I want to where it's, the risk is relatively, like, mitigated, right? To where, like, I know it's pretty safe. Even if it was a high risk investment, well, those still need to be, like, even handled with more care, right? That's why, I feel like, when you hear about what do they call it? The pink slips and, like, the micro stocks and the micro companies.
Oh yeah.
There's like a lot of like, because people
penny stocks.
The penny stocks. Yeah, there's a lot of bad apples out there, and there's a lot of bad characters that are wanting to take advantage of uneducated investors, because people think, oh, I'm going to throw $1 at Bitcoin, all of a sudden I'm going to be a billionaire, right? Like. So, because you don't want the government, right, having to take care of the people that made bad choices, right? Because then it's going to affect for everything. So I understand, like, the macroeconomics, the microeconomics. I think what Gary's doing is obviously got to be smart in the long term. Now I think he's learned a lot of lessons. I'm not trying to hype things too much, because he admitted on this last Gift Goat call that we both were on that he got a little caught up in the being like one of us, being like one of the kids that are just having fun, high five and everything, and, like, getting excited, like. And I always knew that, because I've always known Gary, like, at his true self, because I feel like I have a lot of the same characteristics. So I give him a lot of leeway, a lot more than most people do. Just because, like, I know what it's like to get too excited, and I've made promises at my own company that came out like as promises, but were more like just like trying to get people, just trying to get people excited. And the next thing you know, I got employees like saying like, oh, well, he promised us this if we did this. And like, oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't forget. Like, it just, I got excited.
I think that's part of the entrepreneurial journey too, right? Like, what Gary's shown is that it doesn't end. And you always go through that journey, even when you start a new business, because I've had to be super cognizant of what I say, whereas before I would just cuss like, fuck this shit, whatever, and like talk shit about whatever, right? And then, your colleagues, your employees just start, thinking that you're right and will start to take on that characteristic. That's part of the culture that you're building. So I had to be more cognizant, even, like here at JDM Labs, in making sure that I am, like careful with what I say, right? So because then it becomes a reflection of everybody else.
Yeah, we're all learning, we're all in our 40s, right? Like, you're in your 40s, right? Gary's in his 40s. I just turned 41. So like, I feel like those are small lessons to learn, I feel like, in our 40s, because we still have another 40 years of business left ahead of us that we can make good decisions and learn from it. Let's get a little bit more detail. Let's get some people at home, because there's not a lot of people that know about these NFT things. I feel like I've talked to them, over the course of the last year, but it takes a while for it to sink into the average person. But let's talk spectacular. Let's go spectacular, then let's talk Hangout Hawk, and let's talk Gift Goat. So spectacular, what attracted you to the spectacular token? Explain what it is a little bit and tell me why you think that community is a little bit different than maybe some of the other ones.
So I minted a spec, but that was actually the last one I minted, right? I remember talking to Mohit Raw on the Discord, for those of you who are listening. And I was asking him, I'm not sure if I should mint any more. I minted 5 already. I think I got what I wanted. Because first I wanted to mint 1 NFT just to support Gary. Then because I didn't even look at what VeeFriends were. I was just like, oh, I know this Fuck You Monday mole. He did a Fuck You Monday rant. So I was like, I'll get a very rare. I don't even know what the fuck I was doing. I was just like, I'll get this. And I got it. And I started doing research after I bought my first one.
Yeah, you sound like me. And then you went down the rabbit hole. Then we had too much money laying around. We're like, oh, we'll take another one. Oh, we'll take another one. You found all that Bitcoin from like years ago, and you're like, oh, I'm rich. Oh, let's just throw another one in here. Exactly.
So, to go back to the spec thing, I decided to get a spec because, one, Gary was pumping it. In one of his Discord calls, he did a Discord call. I hate to say pumping it, but he was saying specs are the VIPs.
He was excited. He was excited.
Yeah. He said specs are the VIPs. I was like, okay, that's the only one I don't have. I have a Hangout Hawk. That was actually my target after the Fuck You Monday mole. And then I also got a Gift Goat. So then I was like, okay, I'll get a spec. And then he's like, the werewolf is where it's at. I was like, oh shit, because I was about to get the intuitive iguana, because I love the art of that on the bubblegum. Like, the bubblegum is my favorite background. I was about to mint that.
I got a bubblegum.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Bubblegum.
Kingfisher.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Kingfish. Okay, makes sense.
Last name's Fisher. I was like, you know what? I didn't even know what a kingfisher was. I knew it was a bird. I didn't care. I was like, I just want something with Fisher in the last. And there was all these other fish ones. He's got like blobfish and all kinds of other fish ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Kingfisher sounds like really legit. So, and then my buddy Ron Jordan, Ron Jordan, right?
Yeah,
from the Stars podcast. And,
yep.
Yeah, he told me, he's like, bubblegum, that's going to be the one. Get bubblegum. I'm like, all right. So I picked bubblegum Kingfisher.
Yeah, so I just love the bubblegum background. Like, people were like, oh, it's all about hollows. I'm like, I personally didn't like how it looked, and I just wanted to go something, aesthetically appealing to me. So I got that, and I was about to get the iguana. He's like, werewolves are where it's at. Then I was like, fuck it. I got the bubblegum well-connected werewolf.
That's awesome. So yeah, just to give everybody a little bit of background. So Gary came out with like 200, I don't know, I'm just going to say 250 characters. There's a little bit less. I think
268 actually.
I think there's more now because of VeeFriends too, though, right?
It was 268, and then he came out with 15 new ones, so it's
so let's call it 280 something. So anyway, there's 5 spectaculars for each character. So there's roughly
6 now. Emerald.
Yeah, there's 6. Yeah, you're right. There's an emerald one. So there's probably like roughly like 1,200 spectaculars, 1,300 spectaculars. So I would say there's a lot of people that own 2, right? Wouldn't you say that there's a lot of people that own 2?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Shit, it skipped out. What'd you say?
That's all right. Do you think that there's a lot of people that own 2, like spectaculars? I feel like...
Oh, Yes.
Even though there's like a couple thousand, there's like 1,200 maybe unique ones, but like I feel like the community is smaller than that because people in multiples.
Yeah, I know one person in the community in the spec who owns all the specs for the zebra.
Oh, that's impressive. So he's got the monopoly on the zebra.
Yeah, he's got the monopoly on the zebra.
So if there's ever a zebra spec party, he'll be the only one there.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Well, I always think that Gary's going to do something like that where he says, hey, we're going to do an African safari and all my zebra specs can come. And then if you're holding all of them, you're like, all right, I guess I'll come by myself.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of that, the utility of, this is what got me, right? Like, I think me and you are a lot more alike than I think. Hangout Hawk was definitely my first one because I'm thinking like, oh, hang out. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to get to know Gary. I want to hang out with some other people that are like me. I'm assuming that's why they're buying it. That utility of, the Hangout Hawk of being able to like go on these Zoom calls, get to meet, people. There's only 125 in that community, which I liked because to me, it reminded me more of like the country club. So I'm a member of a country club. I only joined it, not because of status, but because I knew I could learn from individuals that were doing things on a bigger level. And that's exactly what I like. I basically just made a one-to-one association thinking the Hangout Hawk is like the country club, like in the real world. So tell me what you like about the Hangout Hawk. Tell me what you think the future of it is.
Yeah, I want to first touch on, like joining a country club, right? Like there's this cliched say, your network is your net worth, right? I hate that saying, even though there is some truth to it. Like you could be the smartest person that came from MIT, but if you don't know anybody to spread your ideas around, it's not going to succeed, right? If you're building a product or you're starting a business. So just like you, I got my goal after minting the first one, which was a very rare fuck you Monday mole. I was like, I researched VeeFriends. I was like, oh shit, there's actually access tokens and stuff. I didn't realize that. My goal was to get a Hangout Hawk, and I just like you, I wanted to be around like-minded individuals, entrepreneurs, to learn from each other, and so that I can also help others on their journey. That was a big thing for me to also give back because I was already, so to speak, a seasoned entrepreneur. So I got that token, and I think it's actually a pretty cool token. It got quiet. Well, I just wasn't involved, for a while, and I know it got quiet there for a little bit, but I think it's starting to pick back up. I just think, people need to showcase more what they do, and rather than trying to pitch Gary, pitch each other. We should pitch each other to see where we can help each other out, right? Like a great person is like Laptop Laura. She's a copywriter. Like a lot of us could use copywriters. I already hit her up in the Discord, like in the Hangout Hawk channel. I was like, hey, I want to see some sample writing if you don't mind, because we actually need help with copywriting, right? Like that's a good example. You have a bombastic personality. It's fucking dope. Like if somebody wants to use you as a host for a podcast or even as a guest, they should hit you up, right? And like just JPEGs guy. I don't even know how to pronounce his previous name. Legend Doe Gary, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Nick. His name is Nick.
Yeah, his name is Nick. We just called him out.
Yeah. Yeah. So good example is him hustling hard, like trying to create content. So asking him on tips for creating content, whether it's editing, how to find the right editor, getting the right camera or whatever. There's a lot of people in there that we could hit up so that we could help each other.
That's what I want to, I sent you a DM the other day. I also sent a DM to some other people. I want to start like our own Hangout Hawk like show where like I kind of moderate it from like the middle, and then like you get people on like the left side and the right side, kind of like almost like a political debate, right? Mm-hmm. And we could talk about the issues in a good, fun, loving way, right? But like, I want to hear both sides, right? I want to create this community to where like the Hangout Hawks are like the premier like token as far as like when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, being able to give value back to the project instead of always just waiting for like Gary to like, airdrop us something or give us something. I really think that we can shine a big light on it. And I think with the people that we have in that room, we can add a lot of value because, there's a lot of people that own all three tokens, right? And we're going to get into the Gift Goat token in a little bit, but I really like that angle where, like, because we see different things in different chats, right? And we have there's a different perspective, right? A lot of people think like the Hawks is like the most optimistic group, right? Because I feel like to be an entrepreneur, you have to be somewhat optimistic about like, you know,
Kumbaya.
like, yeah, well, you have to be like if you're going to build a business.
That's my fault. I did start calling. This is the fucking Kumbaya channel, man. Keep it real, guys. Like,
that's because you've been hanging out with too many of the other guys. You know what I mean? The guys that are like, you know, like trying to figure out, like, you know, and those guys are needed too, right?
Yeah.
And no, like, I actually welcome it because those are the guys that can avoid blind spots, you know, in business, and you know they bring awareness. Yep. Are they going to be able to champion and get everybody cheering and hollering for them? Probably not, but there's a place for everyone, right?
Exactly.
And I think this Hangout Hawk Talk would be a great place to be able to create our own media, like our own channel, to where then if it gets big enough, I mean, Gary would have he would have to. He'd have to entertain. He'd have to entertain it. He'd have to entertain, like bringing us on as like a real subsidiary of VeeFriends, of like having Hawk Talk.
Yeah, so you know, like having Hawk Talk in conjunction with the Entrepreneur Elf channel would be great, right? Like, say, you know, just an hour show. People come in with their questions. Hey, post your questions for the next Hawk Talk. We'll have our experts, you know, Benny, Darby, you know, Emil, whoever, like myself, on the show, and we'll answer these questions for you.
Raw. I want all those. Yeah. I want all of them in there because they're all good.
And it could be different ones every time, right? But you're kind of like the head host. You know,
like we just have to have like 4 to 5 people show up. You know what I mean? Have some type of format. Talk about latest events. Talk about what's coming up. Yeah. And then for the big finale, like at VCon, if we could like have other people, like, you know, through the Entrepreneur Elf, like, you know, that type of, I don't know what they're doing exactly over there, but like budding entrepreneurs who want to pitch their business idea to Hawks, like kind of Shark Tank style.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
because
like,
the Entrepreneur
and we should have
Elf
our own
actually,
room. We should have our own room at VCon. Like we should have like our own thing just happening.
No, exactly. Just like you threw the Hawk Party, right? Like there should be like, you know, we should extend that invitation to like the Entrepreneur Elves and like have a pitch, you know, party, as opposed to like, okay, it's food and drink and just talking, because that's like all parties, right? But if there was a purpose and people were pitching their ideas, that would be badass, and we would help them with their pitch. It's not, you know, we may not, I mean, we're not going to invest in their thing because we're busy with our stuff, because we're entrepreneurs, not investors, or we might, right? Who knows?
Hey, listen.
The thing is, it allows them an avenue.
Have investors. Yeah, we can have investors. We can have entrepreneurs. We can have people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
At least hear these people, give these people a voice, right?
Yeah.
And if we could create that on our own, okay, and this is the hard part, right? We have a bunch of entrepreneur like leaders, right? Like, how do they ever work together with each other? And that's the part that I'm still trying to navigate, because I noticed when I like got everybody like unified on this party thing, like as long as I was driving it and kept on going, like it kept on going and we finished it.
Well, see,
then I got in the weeds though. Then I got after VCon. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to build my own content company. I'm going to work on my own personal brand. And then I like kind of went dark in there for a while. And like you said, everybody else went dark.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, after that, everybody was a little bit burned out from, you know, VCon. And not only that, like they took a week off for work pretty much, right? They had to get focused again, especially since a lot of us are entrepreneurs. So, you know, the thing is, you know, like that saying, there's too many chefs in the kitchen or too many chiefs, right? I think it's the opposite with Hangout Hawks. We are leading our own companies that if we're going to help out with the Hangout Hawks, we don't want to lead that because we're so busy leading that we need somebody to lead us. Just tell me what the fuck to do, and I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what's needed in the Hawks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I keep trying to think of how we can do it, because I do think that we are the group. If there's ever going to be a group to do something like on their own, right, without Gary's help, because I don't think we need Gary's help.
Nah.
We just have to get organized and do it. But let's talk about GiftGoat. So I'll tell you why I joined GiftGoat. It was kind of, I think it's going to be similar. Like I knew I wanted to hang out Hawk. I knew I wanted to be part of something. I found that, and then I saw this GiftGoat. I'm thinking like, all right, well, I mean, I like kind of like stuff. It looks like I was always big into opening baseball cards and getting a random like freaking hit like in there. So I was into that. And I was like, well, it's Gary Vee, man. He's got to be a good gift giver. So I was thinking like, all right, this is going to be, and the utility of it is what fascinated me. And then I kept thinking about the marketer behind him, thinking he's like the brand and collaborations, and he knows every big brand in the world, and everybody's going to want to test their products out on 555 awesome customers. And I kept thinking, like, anybody that has anything is going to say, hey, Gary, can I test this out with your 555 people? And I know Gary's going to be like, sure, come on down. You'll be the next contestant on The Price is Right. And I'm thinking I have to get one, right? Like that's why I got a gift goat, not necessarily because I thought like I was going to get a bunch of cool stuff that I necessarily wanted. I just wanted to see what was going to show up in the driveway or the mailbox every month.
That's exactly, like, this is so crazy. Like, you know, like me and you are very similar. Like, that's the reason why I didn't buy it, because I was expecting a Tesla in my driveway. Right?
I thought maybe Gift 18 would like maybe lead up to something crazy, but I didn't think it would be what we thought it would be.
Yeah. See, and the thing is, like, you know, I just made that a meme in the Discord, like when Tesla, you know, when air fryer, when Tesla branded air fryer. But the thing is, I was just like you, like I really wanted to see, okay, you're really using your connections. Let's see what you can come up with. I don't even care about a Cartier bracelet. I don't wear jewelry, right? Or anything like.
I already got one. Hey, when I do that, yeah, give me something I don't have. Give me something that I don't have that's going to be really creative and cool.
Exactly, right? Like something unique. I thought he was going somewhere with the NFTs. Dropping the NFTs. Sorry, just for everybody.
Well, that was an extra benefit that we didn't know we were going to get. We all thought we were getting 6 physical gifts a year for 3 years, which is 18 gifts.
Yep.
Then he added the old, and I'm going to drop you an NFT, which doesn't really have anything to do with the physical gift. Mm-hmm. They come out at the same time, but he usually is what he's doing is picking an artist that I think he is, I think he likes or thinks there's going to be lots of upside one day, and they do a collaboration. You know, we get the NFT, the artist gets a little bit of notoriety, and I think it's a win-win for everyone. It's just people are a little bit short-tempered on this waiting game for when these NFT artists are going to develop, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think they care about well, it's not that, right? Well, you know, the perception is that in lieu of quote-unquote better physical gifts, we are now getting these NFTs, which should have offset that value, right? Like, so now we're talking about the gift goats as investors and how they've been looking at it. It's like, well, like a lot of them, you know, and rightfully so, they said they bought a gift goat to hedge against the digital part of it because there's physicals, right? Okay, cool. I don't know if these VeeFriends would actually pop off, but I can hedge my bet by buying by getting the gift code and getting physicals. But now that Gary is now doing NFTs with the physical, you know, a lot of it is like, okay, well, we lost a lot of 50% of the physical value because 50% of that is going to the NFT that are being dropped to us by these, you know, up and coming artists. I actually think it's actually a cool pivot. I thought it was cool. What I don't like is the execution of it, right? From the technical aspect of it, like spending how much? $30,000, $60,000 to airdrop one of the collections? That's fucking ridiculous. They should hire.
That's because you know about that part of the world. Like, no, I don't know about that world. It's because you hyper focus because that's what you do for a living.
Yeah, well, there's that part, right?
And you know how much better it could be, right? Like,
yeah, well, there's that, but then also the relationship part of it, right? What's his name? DK. The fact that, you know, one of the artists doesn't even want to acknowledge this drop. I don't think it just one, like a couple of them, right? Doesn't want to acknowledge the gift code collaboration. It's like, hey, how come you guys are fucking up the relationships with these artists? Like, they don't even want to acknowledge it. So it's like, come on, you know, like, better not do that to people when that drops, right? Keep them in the good graces.
Yeah. I guess and again, because I don't pay attention to the ins and outs of it. Yeah. I didn't realize there was so there's some artist collaboration, maybe not so good things happening, huh?
Exactly. It's the, I forgot. I know it's DK, and it's the one where Gary's shaking his butt, but it's that artist. He's like, he'll say, yeah, I did it, but he won't talk about it at all or whatever. So
it's not like Danny Cole, because Danny Cole's still pretty he's still pretty friendly, right?
Yeah. I mean, he spoke at VCon and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like that. Yeah. He's cool. Danny Cole's dope.
So do you think that going forward, like, Gary's going to make a little bit better choices on the artists that he gets because he's Gary and now, like, people are paying attention to him more? Because I bet you Gary probably didn't even know all the NFT artists that were even available at the time, right? Like, because he was still new to that world.
Well, I think it has to be more thoughtful, right? It doesn't have to be, like, quote-unquote better, but it just has to be more thoughtful. Like, for example, that Jen Starks one, I thought that was a great drop, right? they own their mistake by sending the wrong frame. And not only that, she's a great artist, that was executed very well. What wasn't like that, and that's what I mean by thoughtfulness. Drift. That one wasn't executed well. Like the fact that, I think it was Adam Rips, who was on the helicopter, had better pictures on his iPhone than the ones that were dropped into our wallets is a shame, right? It's like, come on, make these photos fucking better, right? The vans are cool. I mean, you can see the vans up in the corner up there, but they're
that's one out of 5 for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. You gave me the alpha on that, so thank you, Benny. Yep.
Can't do it unless you try, right? I'm like, click, and I got 5 pairs of shoes.
Exactly.
Which is like, it's cool because I found out that you could do it, but then I'm just thinking if I'm a purist, then it's like not so cool, right? Like,
yeah. So just the thoughtfulness and the execution needs to be well done. Like just because Frankie Nines, dope fucking artist by the way, did a gift code drop for us, and they had to get a duck themed gift by getting us these duck boots. Like, what the fuck was that? Like that's like,
yeah, just so everybody knows that, and I'm the biggest Gary Vee supporter, fan, like buddy, whatever you want to call me. But man, when I got those boots, I was like, thank heavens I was in the dirt working my butt off trying to figure out like this new brand that I'm creating with my personal stuff, because I didn't even really pay attention to it. So like, because I probably would have got like, it would have been weird trying to like, get hyped on a video, trying to open up these boots and being like, oh, I got a pair of $30 work boots. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what am I going to do? Like, there was not even like anything custom about them. Everyone's telling me that they're on the discount clearance rack right now for like $30.
Yep.
And I'm just like, the shipping probably costs more than the boots do.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that you can make these things cool. I don't care what you do. I don't care if like, Shaquille O'Neal says they're awesome. They're still not going to be awesome. There's nothing you can do. But I also then now look at the story behind it as a lesson, and it's on the blockchain forever that happened. And Gary's going to be able to come out of that, right? And that's the story that I like, is that the blockchain's never going to lie. It's always there forever. No one can delete that tweet, right?
Yep.
And we can see how he's going to overcome it, right? And I think he did a good job of that last video call that was with all the goats, which I'm sure the Hangout Hawks are pissed because he gets on calls with goats, right? Like, but whatever. I think that was well done. I think it was, you could tell he's authentic about it. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, I would have never invested so much if I didn't believe in the guy. I do believe that he's trying to do the best he can. I do believe that he gets overly excited. I do believe that, when this company gets as big as it is, he knows that things can't go as fast. And I'm sure that bugs him as the kid at heart, right? Like that he can't change stuff as fast, but it's going to be interesting to see it all play out.
I think, looking at this from a meta perspective, right, from a way higher level, 30,000 foot level, I think the thing that we will enjoy the most is the memories of VeeFriends, right? Like going through this journey, remembering when that dropped, the boots, and people are so pissed, like, and then Gary had to admit, yeah, we fucked up on that. Or even remember when Gary was on Discord and people were complaining, and then Gary started like, trolling us, because we think he was a little bit tipsy or whatever from a dinner he had, and he was putting up memes, and it's like, you guys are going to get a bag of coal. That was fucking awesome, having that interaction with Gary, right? It's those things that we're going to remember. It's not,
we got a bag of coal.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to remember like the different gifts that he gave us, when we're on our deathbed, or like even say 20 years from now.
No, 20 years from now, we'll have a hard time. Like, yeah, who's going to remember? Guys like, Jeremy knows. He'll remember every single gift, trivia. Yeah. Some guy like really into the trivia part of it. What we're going to remember is how it made us feel, right? Like how the whole project overall, I guess 40 years from now, made us feel overall, and these little micro bursts of negativity and even positivity. We're not going to remember the two highs and lows. Like, I already forget paying over $125,000 in U.S. American for my second Hangout Hawk. I already forget it. Like, and that was just a year ago, right? Like a year ago at that peak, right before that Christie's thing.
Yeah.
And they say all the hype, and like I was like, all right, better buy as many tokens as I can before like that happens. It's like, I only just bought one, and it was like, because it was my favorite token. I was like, oh, I better have a second one because I wanted to give that access to somebody because Like, that could change somebody's life. Just the fact that you're able to give, something like that. I was like, this is so cool because, like, I've had enough access to Gary. Like, I'm good. Like,
and like, you make a good point there, right? Like, Gary, I think amongst all the channels, and I know, people who are listening are going to get pretty pissed about this, but amongst all the channels, he's in our channel the most, right? He's on Specs, he's in Hangout Hawks, but he just kind of says what's up or whatever. He's having full-on conversation with us all the time, right? Not like in general, hey, how's everyone, right? He's having full-on conversations, explaining what he's doing. I think that's why a lot of people are still holding, right? Because you're right. It's about how he felt and how he felt listened to Gary. Even though a lot of us are unhappy in the channel, but still the fact that we are being listened to and we're being responded to, it's like, that's an access. We basically have an access token without having to pay an access token, right? Like, you could call it the Discord access token because he's having full-on conversations with us.
Yeah, he's definitely went back and forth, and I do really believe him when he says he reads everything. I mean, I think that he reads a lot of it. I also think that he probably gets debriefed every day. I bet you he has a quick call, and I'm sure Daniel, who does an awesome job of moderating.
He's dope.
I'm sure he gives him a quick summary, of the dates, and he probably tells him, "Oh, this is what all the happy people said. This is what all the naysayers said." And he probably, he's channeling that information. But he's a guy of action. He's always going to take a lot of action. He's going to move fast. He's going to fail fast. And I think it's the secret to entrepreneurship, and the way that he recovers, and the way that he asks us for forgiveness. And I could see it in his eyes, man. When he did that gift goat call the other day, I didn't have a chance to see it live, but I watched the replay. Like, that was real, man. And I think
there was remorse.
I think that anybody that could, like, understand who that was, like some of the tougher critics in the room, hopefully they could sense that. And instead of, like, sticking it to them, hopefully they applaud the authenticity, and we'll see where it goes from now. But let's talk about next year, VCon next year. Where do you think it's going to be?
Yep. So I'm just piecing together things. So supposedly it's going to be in the U.S. again. If I were to guess, I mean, for selfish reasons, I want it to be in Vegas. It makes fucking perfect sense.
Too many shiny objects, though, man. People will never make it to the conference. They'll just hang out at the craps table.
Yeah, there's that. But then I would say it'd probably be central. If I were to guess, it would be in Austin or Chicago. But if it's in Chicago, why not do it in Minneapolis again? So my guess is Austin.
All right. I saw some people guessing San Diego. I thought that San Diego would be a great place for weather reasons, and also it could help some of the people in Japan and Australia get there a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be in Minneapolis again. So I'm going to go on the record as saying it's going to be in Minneapolis again.
Minneapolis, yeah. I'm thinking that makes the most sense.
I heard he's got a really good relationship with the owner of the Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
first they have a VaynerMedia office there in Minneapolis. That's where their e-commerce division or whatever is called. Second, they got a lease for, what is it called, US Bank Stadium or whatever, for 6 years. They leased it for 6 years, so they got probably a good deal. Right? That's why I think it's going to be more than likely Minneapolis, but they kept on saying no. So
yeah, I don't know though. And I guess
I don't think it'd be in San Diego though. I think if they were going to do it in Southern California, they would do it in LA. Like, it doesn't make sense to do it in San Diego when you could be right there in LA. Like, it's easier to get to LA than to San Diego. So that's my guess.
Yeah.
If they were to do it in
San Diego's a little nicer though.
It is, no doubt. It is, no doubt, right? Like, Comic-Con is there. The OG Comic-Con is there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's let's talk about this big 10K party that you had. You had the highlight of all highlights parties. And somehow I feel like, me and you talked a little bit as I was organizing the Hangout Hawk party. You were organizing your party. Tell me what you thought about it. Tell me what you thought was great. Tell me what you think you could do a little bit better for next year. Tell me what's coming down the horizon for next year, if you have any alpha on that.
So the Super Party 10K, which was a mansion party during VCon, I'll let I'm not gonna lie. I'll be like fully honest. We were fortunate that Beeple showed up, right? And Danny Cole and Andrew Wang and Swan Sit. I think it was great that they showed up, and it was cool. But I didn't personally invite them. The only one I know kind of personally is Swan a little bit. because of the party, right? And Danny as well, Danny Cole and Andrew Wang actually. Now because of the party, it was all because of the party. But you know, like it was hard getting it together. I'm super grateful for my team, for Marco specifically, who handled a lot of it and the coordination of it, who's our COO, and you know also Dustin and Julio who helped out with the party itself. But stay tuned. I'm not gonna lie. Like we have no plans yet for another super party. We've just been so deep in the weeds with what we're doing right now at JDM Labs. Like, you know, a party is so far from what we're thinking about. So, but most likely we will probably do one during VCon, because that's kind of like, you know, it's our thank you to the VeeFriends community. Like JDM Labs would not have existed because of without VeeFriends. So it's our extension to thank everybody in the community who have helped us out along the way. So, I mean, the plan is, yes, we're probably going to have a party, but we haven't planned anything at all yet.
Maybe we got to get together and figure out how we can have one awesome party instead of like, you know, 5 different ones, because I feel like there's a lot of us that put a lot of work into these parties individually, and they all came off pretty good. I feel like because I know that I talked to you like a month before it was happening, and I was like, Mikey, like, what's going on? Like, you haven't released anything. And all of a sudden, man, boom. And then I went there and I was like, whoa, how'd you guys pull? You guys are like magicians. How'd you pull all this off? I was like super impressed, because you were really sandbagging on me and not really telling me anything, or somehow miracles happened. And like, I mean, the event location was baller, bro. You got to admit, like, that part of it was cool. I know you didn't expect for any of the NFT people to show up. I did. I know I was harassing Danny Cole to come to the Hangout Hawk party for like months, only because I figured if I can get this. Danny Cole's the creator of the Creature World, which was our first gift NFT. And I'm just thinking, like, anything I can do to elevate anything that has to do with the project is going to be good for us. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I was like, and Danny Cole to me was the easiest to access, right? Like, I had no access to Beeple, right? Zero. Like, you know, like, but I used to direct message Danny Cole on the Twitter. Danny Cole gave me a cell phone number before VCon. You know, he's like a kid at heart. You know, he's like a 20-year-old kid that like is just like living the dream. He came to the Hangout Hawk party for free pizza. So like it was a blast.
Well, here's the biggest insight that I got from like these parties, and then throwing our own, right? It's not about the celebrities who come. It's about the people who come and creating the right environment, right? Like the reason why like I enjoyed the Hangout Hawk party is because I had a chance to sit down with not only fellow Hawks, but like other people who came as well, and just to talk with them. Right, the food was good, and I had a chance to talk with them, and I think that's the key for these parties. A lot of times, people have these ragers where it's fucking loud ass music with a loud ass DJ, and it's an open bar, and it's hard to talk, and you're like, "What? What did you say?" Yeah.
I only got one complaint. I had this guy from Europe who was not an actual Hawk; he was just a guest somehow, and he's like, "Hey, bro, like, can we get some club music going a little bit louder?" I'm like, "No, it's not that kind of party, man." I said, "It's not that kind of party." But I do think for next year, you know, and again, this was the first year for everyone. I think for next year, I would love to have a little bit more intentionality with, like, you know, whether we can showcase a couple products. You know, I don't want to bore people with 30-minute presentations, I don't think. But I do want to get something that's a little bit more interactive, that we could add value to and expand the Hawks network, you know, and maybe even, you know, and I think your party actually was the best version of what that could look like. I will say, I'll be honest with you, you know, there was lots of different rooms to spread out in. It was definitely high class. I feel like if the Specs, the Goats, and the Hawks all threw in like one big mega party, and like JDM just happened to be like the title sponsor, you know, I feel like that could be that could start a movement, and I think that movement won't be ignored by Gary Vee. But let's wrap this show up, man, because I think, man, me and you could talk forever.
I know, right? I didn't realize it's almost 3 or 6 your end.
Yeah, about this time. But I always ask everyone 5 questions.
Cool.
Kind of just get their viewpoint on this. If you're going to if I was going to send you to a private island, let's just say completely by yourself, there was nobody else on Earth, what book would you take with you? You're only allowed to take one book with you. What book would you take with you?
Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Wow. All right. That's pretty deep. I like that. I'll have to ask you more about that later. All right, you're allowed to take. You're allowed to put one restaurant on your island. What restaurant do you put?
Oh shit! Now that's hard. That's a hard. Fuck.
It could be a little hole in the wall in Vegas. It could be a little hole in the wall from back where you grew up. It could be a famous place. I just want to know what it is.
I'd put a Mexican restaurant, a legit Mexican restaurant.
Like which one?
Like a hole in the wall type of one. Well, I was gonna say like the one here that's famous in Vegas is called Tacos Al Gordo. But you know, any of those hole in the wall ones that serves, you know, like legit Mexican food.
That's cool. All right.
Not no Taco Bell, legit Mexican food.
There's a good one in Vegas that has a club next door. What's that one? I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up. Is it called El Cantina? No, I can't remember. Anyway, let's see. What's the next question? Oh, what movie would you take with you?
Godfather 2. That's my favorite movie. I can watch it all the time.
All
yeah.
right.
I know everybody talks about the first Godfather, but my favorite and I think the best is Godfather 2.
Really? Most people, yeah, first and third. I haven't heard too many people say the second one. I like that about you.
Second one, yeah.
All right, and then you're allowed to take one vacation. You're allowed to go anywhere in the world for a week. Where are you going to go?
I know where I want to go, but it's kind of obscure if you don't know. So in the Philippines, there's this island called Boracay, Boracay. I think it's one of the most, if not the most beautiful beach in the world. I would go there.
Have you been there before?
Yeah, and I always want to go back.
Wow. Is it an expensive place to get to, or is it just like a regular place that no one knows about, or?
No, it's not expensive to get to. I mean, it's an international flight, but and you have to take a boat to get there after you get there. Well, you have to take But
is it very like resorty, or is it very like just really cool stuff?
No, it's not very resorty at all. So there are like super nice resorts there, a couple of them, but then like it can go down lower and lower and lower in price. Just depends on what your budget is, and it's just such good vibes over there. And it's a white sand beach. So imagine like here's an island, right? This side's the Pacific Ocean. It's on this side, so it's not too wavy. The color of the water is so like it's like blue Gatorade. It's so weird. I never saw that.
Wow.
It's
I'll have
just
to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, and last question. You're allowed to have 24 hours with one person. Could be living, dead, famous, not famous. Who do you have come with you for a full day?
I mean, that's an easy answer. It would just be Jesus. But, I mean, if you want me to...
No, that's a great answer.
Okay.
Oh, that's the only answer I needed, buddy. I like it.
Yeah.
That's. I think you're the first person to say. A lot of people gave me the Bible for the book, but nobody gave me Jesus for the person, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd have to look back. We're like 40 episodes in, but that's awesome, man. I appreciate the fact that you willing to share a little bit about your faith. And I know me and you talk about it a little bit in the Discord. Yeah. Anytime that you want to talk about that stuff, man, you just got to let me know.
Will do.
I'm all about that. How's everybody get hold of you, Mikey, if they want to connect with you?
Yes. Twitter, MikeEEJT. Same thing on Instagram, and same thing on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show. Definitely can't wait to talk some more with you about NFTs, VeeFriends in the future. Oh, and I'll see you down in Atlanta.
Yes.
Coming up.
Forgot. JDMLabs.io. JDMLabs.io. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I'll see you in Atlanta. Shaq,
we'll see you
Gary.
In Atlanta, little Shaq. Yeah, me and Mikey get to hang out with Shaq. So it'll be Mikey, are you bigger or smaller than Gary?
We're like the same height. I think he's 5'6". Because I stood next to him and I'm like, oh shit, we're the same height. Fuck.
Because I'm thinking like, okay, it's gonna be like Gary, then Mikey, then Ben, and Shaq.
I think we're the same height because from what I remember, we were like I was looking like eye level and I saw his head. Yeah. Are you bringing
a bunch of sunflower seeds with you to like give to him?
No.
You should bring in a bag of sunflower seeds and like create your own brand on it and like get like a mock up like what the new brand would look like with Mikey and Gary. That would be cool. See if you can make that happen.
GM seeds, yeah.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Benny.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.